Humans are messy, but I think this messiness is what makes us who we are. We love order, and we organize things into neat rows and pretend we are all so civilized. But we also have chaos following us around everywhere we go. Behind closed doors, we reveal what we really are. The things we pretend not to see or outright deny as in our nature. We don't clean our room and the clutter accumulates. How it is made is not something that can be perfectly predicted, and yet the concept of a mess arises seemingly without fail. The thought that spurred this, for me, was, can our messiness be replicated? Can a robot actually make a mess the way we do? How many lines of code does it require to get the chaos we know and recognize? If an AI-generated video had to invent a messy room, what would it look like? I don't know. But would we be able to tell if it was really a mess or not? The reason I thought about this is the concept of authenticity and how we can prove we are human in a world where anything can be fake. I may be wrong about this, but I wonder if our best bet is to just keep it messy and rough. The lack of perfection is what makes us who we are, and to me, that's perfect. As I said, what kind of spurred this on is like the idea of authenticity and what makes something feel real. And the conclusion I think I came to is that it's the imperfection is what makes it feel more real. Something that's perfect doesn't feel real because how often do you find perfection in reality? And the answer is that you don't, because what is perfection? It's relative. It's not like a physical, it's not a defined, at this point that something becomes perfect. It's different for every person, and for that reason, it's not really a concept that's like universal, right? And so what spurred me on this about this really is that over here I noticed that my mess of stuff on this little table here is like in my shot, and I noticed it in some videos that I did, and I thought about it, and I was thinking, I was like, if someone made like a person talking, right, like an AI person talking, would the AI even consider to make a pile of junk in the background without it being prompted to, right? Without you saying, and make the room messy. Would the AI ever even consider that as something it would do? Right? Like, I don't know, because I don't have a lot of experience with like making something with AI, or really even just watching AI content in general. I don't know how good it is at this point, because I just don't watch it. And so I don't get exposed to it, right? Like, if I'm watching a video, it's about, I don't know. It's a different kind of content than, I guess, like short form. I feel like most content is like short form for like AI videos, and I think that has to do with like, it probably helps keep the consistency of the prompt. By keeping it short, it's less likely to lose the plot or something. Maybe I don't know. I really don't know that much about it at all, but no, I could be wrong, and AI can generate a mess no problem, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a mess made by an AI and by a person, and I would understand because they're just basing off of data, right? So they're saying, okay, well, this is what an actual mess looks like, so make it look kind of like that. But I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see what it looks like, right? Because, like I said, I could be wrong about this, but I feel like you'd be able to tell. And I find that interesting, right? It's the thing that makes us the most human, in my opinion, is the fact that it's messy. It's not quite perfect. It's not quite right. And that's like, I basically our defining feature, right? And the amount of effort that it takes to replicate that is potentially not worth it, right? So I don't know. I think it's interesting. I don't think that it's necessarily impossible, but I just like, I feel like it's just not even considered when making a video, like, oh, like, let's throw a little mess there, you know? So I don't know. It just kind of made me think about it a little bit. I was a little curious, and I feel like, potentially it is replicable at some point, but it's the videos that are like not heavily edited and it's just a person talking that feel the most real, because it is the most real. Because a video that's scripted is inherently just not real, because conversations that are scripted are not really conversations, right? It's just two people acting, basically, right? So in order for it to be real, it can't be all pre-planned, right? Or at least in order for it to feel real, because otherwise it feels like you're just consuming content, right? You're not engaging with a person, you're consuming content. And depending on what you're looking for, I guess it doesn't matter. But I just think it's interesting to think about, if not that, right? Like, if I'm wrong, right? And you can, like, that's not something that like can't be replicated, then what is, like, how do you prove that you're real? Right? What can prove that you're real? I think that's kind of like interesting to think about, because even if the answer is nothing, just thinking about the possibilities of, well, maybe that could be something that could prove that I'm real, right? And the answer is that for a time, the answer would be yes, that would prove you're real. But it's like security nowadays on like the internet, like, oh, you need a password, but your password's not that secure, so like, let's do two-factor authentication as well, because the reason why we have to do all that stuff, right, is because at one point it was secure, but they since it was considered secure, they had to come up with ways to make it unsecure and be able to crack it, basically. And when they discovered how to crack it, then it's insecure. Now we need a new secure way, right? And so potentially there is nothing that can't be eventually replicated. But again, it's probably a lot of effort for, I would say, minimal gain, right? What do you gain by adding, as I've said in my thing, like thousands of lines of code to a program in order for it to generate what we consider random, right? Or what we consider to be a mess, like, or chaos, basically. I don't know. I feel like what even defines a mess is really a human thing, right? Because you walk into a room and without context, how do you know what is and isn't a mess, right? You walk into a room and oh, things aren't put away, right? But what does it mean for things to be put away? Like, what does it mean for things to have a proper place? Um, you know, and I feel like that is part of why it's a good thing for us to kind of use as, a proof, basically, because no mess is the same, every time, your room becomes a mess, but is it always the exact same mess? No. It's messy, but it's not the same exact mess. And I don't know. I think that's just interesting. I also think it's interesting of like our fascination with order when we are just so messy is just kind of an interesting thing too. We like to, as I said, we like to see ourselves as so civilized, but we can be some really freaky people, and I feel like there's certain things about society that like people like to push under the rug. And I feel like it's just this weird kind of like unspoken thing that like we don't talk about, our desires, right? Like our sexual desires and stuff, right? Meanwhile, everyone you walk by basically, has them. And I just feel like it's so bizarre because we act like, oh no, like we're just people, right? We don't think like that. But like everyone does on some level, right? And we just kind of pretend like that's not like a thing. And I think that that's like, I'm not saying everyone should just like go crazy, right? And just like act on all of their impulses because who cares? But I just feel like it's so bizarre to act like we don't think that way when everyone does, right? And then it kind of puts us into this weird state of almost like psychosis or something where we think that like, oh, I'm having bad thoughts, or I'm not like everybody else, right? I need to be more normal. And the reality is that the concept of normal is a social construct, right? Everyone has decided that normal is normal. And so everyone tries to act normal in order to fit in. Meanwhile, as I said, everyone is acting. They're not actually normal. They just act normal because that's just what we consider normal. Like, it's kind of silly, but everyone's pretending to be more normal than they are. And I don't know. I just think that that's kind of silly too, and interesting in a sense, right? Because I don't know, on any given day, how genuine is everyone actually to themselves? Like how many people in the world actually be themselves, like throughout the day, right? like how often is someone being genuinely themselves all day long? Like I don't know. I feel like it's a little. I feel like it's a low amount because everyone wants to try and fit in. Um, and I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe people actually are normal, and I just and I'm not. I don't know, right? But it's one of those things that's kind of interesting because like it's hard to know. It's hard to know, right? Because how do you know everyone's acting without them saying that they're acting, without them telling you that they're acting, right? And how do you know that them saying that's not an act, right? oh yeah, no, I feel the same way, right? It's like, okay, do you actually, or are you just saying that? And it puts you in this uncertainty thing. And I feel like this is off topic from where this conversation started. um I said it in my other video, but I feel weird. I think I'm just tired. um and so, like, I'm like talking, but I feel I feel like I'm talking differently. um and I don't know, it just feels a little weird. But um but yeah, I don't know, we're so strange. As you know, we are some strange creatures with some strange habits, and some strange ideas. But it's all of that strangeness that I think makes us who we are. It's what defines what it means to be, human. It's the complexity of, basically, we don't know what we're doing that makes us what we are, right? It's trying to live as if you know what's going on and you're in control in a world where you're completely lost and absolutely helpless. But continuing on all the same, right? The whole thing is absurd. And we don't care. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I got my little teacup. I got this when I went on my vacation. I feel like it's just such an impractical cup size, but at the same time, I think it's really fun. At this, it's like, oh, I got my little teacup. That's good stuff. Yeah, I think I'm tired. Peace out.